keeping me away from you. Don't wait tonight to watch you sleep. You know that you will always lose. It's Jeremy who don't tattoo by my door. Every night I cry, every night I call your name. Every night I burn, every night I fall again. So don't talk of love that shines alone. Move away from me. Don't talk of worlds that never won. The end is always ever true. There's nothing you can ever say, nothing you can ever do. Still every night I call, every night I scream your name. Every night I fall, every night the dreams the same. Every night I fall, waiting for my own friend. Every night I fall, waiting for the world to end. Just paint your face in shadow smile, slipping me away from you. It doesn't matter how you hide, find you if we're wanting to. So slide back down, close your eyes, sleep while you must be told. Every night I burn, every night I call your name. Every night I burn, every night I fall again. Every night I burn, feel the animal scream. Every night I burn, feel the crow that dream. Every night I burn, feel the animal scream. Every night I burn, feel the crow that dream.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
We got a little bit different show for you tonight. What we're going to be doing is the first of many, we hope, in a series we like to call Crue Hollywood Stories, and we'll get more into what that's going to be about in just a minute. But I just want to take this time to recognize some of the great content we've been trying to provide for you on this channel. If you missed it Saturday night, Crane just had a great stream, Shitface Saturdays. We had another new show premiere this past week, the Off the Top Rope wrestling show. Uh, these two fellas here, they were bringing that to you, and yeah, we've got some good shorts that's been coming up. I believe we had a new reaction to a music video, uh, among other things. And we're always trying to bring content for you out there, and tonight's no exception. So, what we're going to be talking about, as you see there, is dealing with the lives and also, unfortunately, the deaths of Bruce and Brandon Lee. And this Crue Hollywood Stories is going to get in depth. So, Carter, we got a lot of stuff to talk about, don't we?
Oh, yeah, we do. Shout out to Megan, who really kind of helped put this thing together. I mean, she put in a lot of work as far as research goes, and as far as just helping us get ready for the show. She's not here tonight, but we wouldn't be able to do it without her. So,
Yep. Thanks a lot, Megan.
Absolutely.
salute. So yeah, I believe the way this is going to work. Real quick, give a shout out to the comments. Rattlehead Live Concert Security Team says, "Please tell me there's no loud music and headbang going to happen tonight. You're in luck."
Well, there will at least be music being talked about at some point, but
yeah,
I don't think we're going to be playing anything specific for that.
The Falcro, sir, what's up? Slim Mosley's here. Kane Shades. All right.
Lady Opportunity checked in with us.
Yeah. I don't know what this is, but
turquoise drinking coffee face.
Yep. For some reason, it didn't show.
It's emojis over and over. Yeah,
it's a bunch of emojis.
There's Cranges, and then right above it, it's Cranges' massive wallet.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess we'll get into it. If you want me to, I can start it off. So basically, this is it's like a Hollywood story in a way. It's about two actors that were father and son. Bruce Lee, who was born November 27th, 1940 in San Francisco. He was raised, actually, though, in British Hong Kong, where his father found him work as a child actor. His early martial arts experience included Wing Chun, Tai Chi, boxing, and even street fighting. Bruce Lee was able to move to Seattle in 1959 due to his dual citizenship. He enrolled in the University of Washington in 1961. Go Huskies. And during this time, he decided he'd like to start a martial arts school. His first school operated out of his home, and later he opened a second school in Oakland, California. Eventually, he would move to L.A. to teach, training the likes of Chuck Norris, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and even bombshell actress Sharon Tate. So the guy was definitely, those are some pretty big names.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, Bruce Lee would combine his martial arts training with various other sources to create his own martial arts style. I think it was called Jeet Kune Do.
Mm-hmm.
During this time frame, he would meet and marry Linda Emery, with whom he would welcome two children, Brandon and Shannon. 1966, Lee would be introduced to American audiences as Kato in the TV series The Green Hornet, which is about this really cool car, and I think it's about a rich guy Butler, Kato, they fight crime.
You're right on the Butler, but it wasn't really about the car.
Right.
But they did have a cool car.
Yeah, to an extent.
Anyway. Let's see. In the early 70s, his acting career took off with movies like Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon, and Enter the Dragon. For those of you who are into, those types of movies, you definitely know what I'm talking about. Pretty big. Lee's influence was great. His Hollywood success just blew up. And it blew up everyone in the United States with their interest in martial arts, as well as, changing views on Asian stereotypes, so to speak. So real quick, let's ask, what are y'all's 2 favorite Bruce Lee films?
Go ahead, Austin.
Well, my favorite, I've got to go. It's just the one that I remember growing up that I had saw first, and that's Enter the Dragon. I've got this nice Blu-ray set. It's got the dragon on the back there. But yeah, this is one I remember watching with my brother. One of my brothers who was big into Bruce Lee. First time I watched it was on VHS. We had the big, huge VCR we rented from the video store. And that was the first time I ever saw it then. And I just remember how awesome it was to see the fighting and the just all the stars that were in that. You got Bob Wall, John Saxon, Jim Kelly in his breakout role. That's really the one that put him on the map. Of course, Jackie Chan he was not given like a credit necessarily, but he was in the movie. And Bolo Young, who's went on to star a lot of other films since then, and they were all great friends with Bruce Lee. So that's another thing. So, but yeah, that would be my favorite.
Is that the one where the dude's got the chain with the claw?
Yeah, basically, it's the bad guy of the film has.
You remember the last fight scene?
He has a false hand, and he can change out and put different weapons on it.
You remember when Bruce at the end when they actually fought each other? There's one kick where he kicks him way off the camera. It looks like the dude's just disappears completely.
Yeah,
it's one of the funniest kicks you'll ever see in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember which one it was. Hoss, you're gonna have to help me out with this. Which one was it was my favorite one, but it was the one where he was going through the levels of the house. Kareem was in it.
Yeah, Kareem.
I think the one that Kareem was in was actually the one they were filming, The Game of Death. I think is the one he was in.
Well, Game of Death was the one where they had the fighting tournament.
Right.
Correct. The one I'm thinking of, Kareem was in multiple movies for Bruce, and it was the other one. Was it Way of the Dragon?
Well,
it was different stages.
In the Game of Death, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played Mantis, the 5th floor guardian.
Oh, so yeah, it is Way of the Dragon.
So I think that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah, that one was great. And what's crazy about Bruce, he's still debated to this day when you talk about UFC fighters, Conor McGregor, could Bruce Lee beat him in prime? That's how big he was a martial artist. He's still being brought up now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I personally don't think he would have much of a chance the way the game is evolutionized, but it still shows the impact he's had on it.
Yeah. Well, they did a 30 for 30 recently about him.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I'll check that out.
Like The Way of Water or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Or Being Watcher.
The 1-inch punch. I know you know that, Hoss.
Oh, yeah. I mean, pretty much he changed how people thought of karate because the way it was being taught in the U.S. was like an old style, and he wanted to do something that was a little bit more up to date and kind of combining styles, which was unheard of at that time, and actually discouraged by people who operated dojos in the U.S. Prior to him really getting his Jeet Kune Do going. So,
was that the time he was paralyzed when he wrote the book for Jeet Kune Do, or was that? I thought he wrote it in the hospital, correct?
Well, I don't know. I think in the Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, that's how it's portrayed that he does that
Maybe
during
that's what I'm
his
thinking of.
recovery.
The one that had the kid from the Jungle Mowgli from the Jungle Book in it. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Well, I tell you this: the if it wasn't for Bruce Lee, because I've even seen, I have seen the documentary. If it wasn't for Bruce Lee, because apparently because of Bruce Lee, there was this massive uh, taekwondo or karate like thing all over the country. I mean, that's why, especially in the late 70s and 80s. And apparently it was big in the 80s, I mean, that's why the Karate Kid got made. You had all these, crazy movies. If it wasn't for Bruce Lee, we wouldn't have all the Kung Fu movies. We wouldn't have the Karate Kids. We wouldn't have, all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's how big of an impact one person made. I mean, martial arts, he's kind of the person to thank for it.
Yeah. He's definitely up there.
yeah. I mean, because not a lot of people knew about at least these type of movies, like the kung fu movies. It was just more or less mostly abroad that people knew about it, and he definitely put the buzz in people's. That like I got to see more of this. Once they
Yeah.
started seeing these films he was in.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Bruce Lee, he collapsed in Hong Kong while doing a voiceover for the film Enter the Dragon. It was May of 1973. Due to the fact he was having severe headaches and seizures, this event led him being rushed to the hospital where doctors diagnosed cerebral edema. Um, to elaborate, cerebral edema is an excess of fluid in the spaces of the brain. Typically, it causes impaired nerve function, pressure in the brain. If left untreated, it can cause compression of the brain tissue and blood vessels. Symptoms can include headaches, nausea, vomiting, seizures, dizziness, and blurred vision. Severe cases can progress to coma and even death. Fortunately, though, doctors were able to reverse the swelling with mannitol. Mannitol is an osmotic diuretic that occurs naturally as a sugar or a sugar alcohol. And it affects the blood plasma to enhance the flow of water from tissues. It can begin to take effect in as little as 15 minutes. So then on July 20th of 1973, the same problem is said to have occurred to Bruce Lee. He was in Hong Kong having dinner with the famed actor George Lazenby. They were discussing the possibility of collaborating on a film project. Bruce's wife, Linda, says that Bruce met with producer Raymond Chow at his home from 2 to 4 p.m. to discuss the making of the film Game of Death. Afterwards, they drove to the home of actress Betty Ting P, where the three went over the script. Shortly after Chow left, Lee began to complain of a headache, and Ting gave him the painkiller, which contained um, aspirin and the tranquilizer. I can't pronounce the word
Meprobamate, I think.
meprobamate. Yeah. At about 7:30 p.m., Lee went to lie down for a nap. When Bruce didn't show up for the planned dinner, Raymond Chow returned to check in on him. When Chow was unable to wake him up. A doctor was called, and after 10 minutes of unsuccessful attempts to revive him, Lee was rushed to the hospital by ambulance. He was declared dead on arrival at the age of 32. The autopsy revealed cerebral edema again, and his official cause of death was death by misadventure. Many years later, Raymond Chow claimed Lee had perhaps had an allergic reaction to the chemical that was in the painkiller. His funeral and burial were held in Seattle on July 25th of 1973. His pallbearers included actors Steve McQueen and James Coburn. So that's a lot of information to digest.
Yeah. I think a lot of it had to do with at the time, we think about how medicine was practiced back in the 70s versus now. We're talking about, night and day, because let's just face it, things weren't as advanced back then, and they had, certain ways they could treat things, and then others it was just kind of like a guessing game, on a lot of stuff. And when they found out what this thing was he was having with these, they should have. I think they should have tried to do a little bit more to treat it. I think it was more or less they just would, gave what they had at the time and just was like, well, maybe you'll be all right, and just kind of went with that. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you on everything. My thing is, there's still debate that it's still faulty play with his death. That's the biggest question in all this. Is like, did the triads have something to do with it? Was this something in his history before he got famous that people don't know about? Like, there's a lot of still questions around all this that's still been circulating to this day.
Well, we'll get into the theories about his death. I think before we do that, we should talk about his son, Brandon, first, and Trenches, if you would. You want to take that one?
Sure. All right, so Brandon Lee was born on February 1st, 1965 in Oakland, California. From a young age, Brandon learned martial arts from his father. Due to his father's acting career, the family split up between Hong Kong and the U.S. He was only 8 years old at the time of his father's passing, but he'd already become interested in acting. Throughout his youth, he continued his martial arts training while also taking acting lessons. Brandon was such a rebellious teenager that he was asked to leave school, eventually deciding instead to get his GED. Afterwards, he attended Emerson College, where he majored in theater. In 1986, he starred in Hong Kong action film Legacy of Rage, and a few other films followed. In 1991, he transitioned into Hollywood productions, co-starring in the film Showdown and Little Tokyo with Dolph Lundgren. Pretty good little side actor right there for your first big role.
Oh, yeah.
Next, he would star in the film Rapid Fire in 1992. While the film was not well received, critics and audience would take note of his charisma on-screen presence. And in 1993, Lee began production on the cult classic The Crow in Northern California. He had almost finished filming all of his scenes, but unfortunately, tragedy would strike the family again on March 31st, 1993. During close-up shots of firearms during dummy cartridges were used. They looked more realistic than blanks. Instead of purchasing the commercial dummy cartridges, the props departed creating their own by pulling the bullets live from the rounds and dumping the powder charge, but not the primer, then reinserting the bullets. So pretty much you got all these dummy rounds and a blank gun. One of them still has primer. It goes off. It's an up-close shot. Hits him in the abdomen. He bleeds out. It's
holy shit.
Yeah, it's pretty tragic. So I was watching a little bit on it today. The original footage is still not able to be seen.
Yeah.
It's put away. The actor who did the shooting never acted again. He felt sick about it to the day that he died of cancer. Like, he pretty much, it ate him alive.
Was that on him, though, or was it on the production team?
So here's the craziest part about it, which we're going to get into theories. The firearm expert that was, is the person who's supposed to be getting the blanks ready for the gun, everything, wasn't even there that day.
Yeah, and that's a really big thing, because they shouldn't have really proceeded with doing anything with the firearms without them being on set, in my opinion.
Yeah, the guy that died of cancer who shot him, it'd be like me handing you the gun, like, all right, press play. Like, it wasn't on him. but it still ate him alive. He pretty much involuntarily killed a man. Like, there's nothing he could do about that. But yeah, he got rushed to the hospital, and I think it was the day after he ended up passing from the abdominal shot, bled out.
Yes.
And it is still, The Crow is still a cult classic to this day, and still a great watch.
Oh yeah, it is, man. It's a great movie. There's some good music off that. That's what I was playing. That was The Cure, Bleed. It's that perfect '90s feel to it, with the dark kind of, and of course, talking about wrestling, one of the best wrestlers of all time got his look from The Crow.
Yep,
we're talking about the immortal Sting.
Yeah, he used that, and also, there for a time growing up, I remember a lot of people either if they weren't wearing like Crow shirts, they were dressing like kind of in black with the combat boots. It was kind of, in a way, influencing the goth style that we have come to know since then, and that music was a big part of it too. I know Carter's mentioned the soundtrack. Big song I remember off of that is "Big Empty" by Stone Temple Pilots was on it.
Nine Inch Nails.
That's an awesome song. The Rollins Band, who was a big alternative band in the early '90s, they did a song "Ghost Rider," which is like a real bluesy, bass-heavy song.
Nine Inch Nails was on there, Hoss.
They sure were. And then Pantera even did a song, "The Badge," which for them, if you've ever heard that song, it's
different.
The original artist is Poison Idea, who's more of a punk band. So you can imagine Pantera playing a punk song. It's just it's different. It's different. But yeah, those are some of the tracks I remember from that soundtrack.
Did you see when they tried to do like a Crow 2 and everything?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's awful. But I remember being a kid going to my uncle's house. He's the one who would listen to like Satriani and stuff, and he'd have like the Marvel posters. But he had like 3 Crow posters, T-shirts. Like, he was a huge fan. That's how I ended up finding it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, The Crow was literally a cult classic because of that, man.
Oh yeah.
And I know they're trying to kind of reboot it coming up here. I don't know if it's maybe in the next year or so. That Sarsgaard, maybe he's going to be playing the role of Eric Draven. So,
wow.
I don't know if y'all heard about
Sarsgaard? Am I missing?
He played
the guy.
Oh,
played in the. I think they're choosing him to play that role. So,
side note, I heard that they are remaking Spawn and they're bringing back John Leguizamo. So that's really all I care about lately.
Oh, okay.
And Blade.
Yeah, but John Leguizamo in Spawn was just it was a hell of a role.
Now The Crow, this was like one of the marquee movies that was going to be coming out that year in '94. Some of the other big ones that came out was like Pulp Fiction, Clerks.
Yeah.
I mean, these are it was a good year for movies, and ones that, while they may not have made the most money at the box office then, they definitely have become like cult favorites later.
Oh yeah.
There's some things you just don't remake. I feel like one of the biggest ones for me was Point Break, but
I didn't watch the remake.
No, I never watched the remake of that one. Mm-hmm.
You want to continue on?
Many theories have kind of traveled around both of their deaths. Most likely is due to the fact that representations initially lied to avoid any hint of something scandalous and said that Lee was at home when he fell ill instead of at another woman's home. Once the truth came out 3 days later, tabloids started throwing around rumors of murders, plots by the governments, the triads, and even ninjas. Conspiracy theories still float around to this day. Ninjas is kind of a fetch. I'd say.
It's a little bit of a stretch. But.
Yeah, the triads, I just don't know if he's had a history with him, man. That's the only thing that sticks out with the triads and Bruce Lee. Like, there's no real story behind that, is there? Unless it's something to do with Imp.
Well, again, this is from the Dragon and Bruce Lee story. That movie kind of took a few liberties here and there,
Right.
but one of the things that it did, make a point of in that movie was how strongly he was discouraged from pushing forward with this Jeet Kune Do, to the point of them almost basically threatening, like, "Hey, you don't want to go against us on this because." They basically like do this or else, and maybe there might have been repercussions, and I think that was kind of their way of touching on that conspiracy theory.
One thing I forgot, I don't know if you mentioned it, the actor that we were talking about that accidentally killed him, his name was Michael Massey. Like, I don't know if I couldn't remember, but it says when the actor Michael Massey shot the round that hit Lee in the abdomen, instead of him falling forward as planned, Brandon fell straight back and didn't get up. And it says there was no visible bleeding, so cast and crew on the set thought he was playing a joke until the medic realized he was unconscious and suffering labored breathing. Eventually, his pulse slowed and stopped completely. Efforts to save his life, including emergency surgery, were unsuccessful, and Brandon Lee was pronounced dead at only 28. Cause of death was ruled as an accident due to negligence. Go figure. He was laid to rest with his dad in Seattle. In 93, his mom filed a lawsuit against the filmmakers, claiming negligence in the death of her son. The suit was settled 2 months later with undisclosed items. Eventually, the filming of The Crow would be completed. What few scenes Brandon Lee hadn't got filmed yet were finished with the help of CGI and a stunt double. The film grossed $94 million with a $23 million budget, and would eventually lead to a franchise. Not only has the first film gained a huge cult following, but so would Lee's character Eric Draven.
Yeah.
And to answer Crangus, I believe so. There was, I think there's, have they had the case about that yet? The Alec Baldwin thing?
Not that I'm aware. They might have.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely could be in some trouble about that. But
hot doo doo. Yeah, that's kind of similar to this. Well, very similar, actually. Shit. I mean, I saw a comment from, I think it was Crange or maybe it was Falcro, but like, yeah, Crange said, the weight of that would be enormous. Yeah, I mean, just think about the guy who pulled that trigger.
Yeah.
But it's just like it said about the management. The management should have just. They shouldn't have went through with that, knowing that the weapons expert was not there.
No.
And
I'd have sued their ass too.
Had they at least waited, they would have. Someone at least would have been there to help catch that, and but that's not how it went down. And I know a lot of times with these productions, they're trying to hurry and get stuff done because every day's time is money kind of thing. But when you think about something freak accident like this that could happen, I mean it's not worth you pushing for that. Trying to save a few dollars.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, that Miramax Studios, who did the movie, they released The Crow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the funny thing about that, we were talking about how the cult's a cult classic, right? Yeah. Well, in the 90s, Miramax also did Scream films, Pulp Fiction, Clerks, Good Will Hunting. I mean, those are a lot of cult classics right there.
Yeah. All right. On the other hand, throughout the years, sensible medical hypotheses have been put forward to explain the circumstances surrounding his death. A study published in 2022 by a group of kidney specialists suggests that his death was caused by the kidney's inability to excrete excess water. In a nutshell, this theory asserts that Lee possess multiple factors for an abnormal low sodium concentration in the blood, including drinking excessive amounts of water, marijuana usage, and impaired kidney function from alcohol and drug usage, as well as previous injuries from fighting. Eventually, this type of kidney dysfunction could lead to cerebral edema.
Mm.
Now, this is we're talking about Bruce Lee, the senior.
We're still on Bruce. My thing with Bruce, man, that another thing people really haven't looked into, like I get we talked about triads and ninjas for some reason. Let's not forget, man, Ip Man had a lot of people who were against what he was doing.
Really?
And that was his prize, pretty much pupil right there. So there's some stuff that could have just followed. Okay, cool. We're going to take out the next guy teaching as well.
Mm.
Yeah, Ip Man, there were some people who wanted him out. Go ahead.
That's crazy. I didn't know any of that.
Yeah. Eventually, this type of kidney dysfunction could lead to cerebral edema. Another theory put forth in the 2018 book, Bruce Lee, A Life is Heat Stroke. This theory revolves around the fact that shortly before the first incident he suffered in May, he had his sweat glands surgically removed. Didn't even know that was possible.
I didn't either. Yeah.
That would have saved a bunch of my shirts.
But why?
Go ahead.
I'm saying, why would anybody? I mean,
He's on film all day. You got to think.
But doesn't sweat release heat? When you're sweating, you're releasing like.
Well, yeah, that's a big way that your body helps you cool off.
Yeah. Doesn't sound too smart, but go ahead. Sorry.
Apparently, Lee didn't like the way sweating appeared on screen, but this would also make it harder for him to pretty much release heat.
Mm-hmm.
As mentioned before, the May 10th medical episode occurred in the recording booth. In those days, it was not uncommon for the air conditioning to be turned off to avoid any interference with the sound equipment. For what it's worth, Lee's widow, Linda, agrees with the theory that he had some sort of allergic reaction to the medication aspirin. I'm not saying that word. It's aspirin.
Equagesic.
Yeah. You look at the big brain on Hoss.
But it's just what they had, the people who were there with him, that's what they had to give him. I mean, it may not have been the best thing to give him, but they thought, oh, surely this will help,
You know what's weird, too, about that sweat gland stuff? So this could be total bullshit. I could be getting trolled, but I watch a podcast called Bad Friends. I don't know if you guys heard of it or not. It's a comedy podcast with Bobby Lee. Okay.
I have, yeah.
Bobby Lee actually had them Google, and sure enough, Asian people actually have way less sweat glands than anyone else in the world. So why are you removing more if that's the case? Pretty weird. With these medical theories might be plausible, rumors will always continue to persist. Once his son died, the rumors amplified to even included more supernatural possibilities, such as a family curse. It is indeed an eerie coincidence that both men's breakout roles were released months after their deaths.
Yeah.
And that was the movie we're talking about, the Bruce Lee movie, where the kid from Jungle Book played him. They're definitely leaning heavy on the curse.
Mm-hmm.
That was their whole theory. Like, they didn't even mention the medication, really. You had to, read it at the end.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it was like a belief like his father had that there was some type of evil spirit following him, and it was being passed from, older generation to the next generation. And
Jesus Christ.
But, again, it's just a theory.
Yeah.
Spooky shit, though.
Another odd coincidence is that Bruce Lee's biopic film, Dragon: The Bruce Lee Story, seemed to foreshadow Brandon's death. Bruce Lee's own father always believed some dark entity was always after Bruce. So the screenwriter decided to include it in the film. In the final scene, a demon that he had been chasing Bruce seems to lose interest and slowly turn towards Brandon. The film was completed 2 months before Brandon's death. That's creepy. They pretty much, that whole movie foreshadowed Brandon.
So this movie is somewhere out there where we could watch it.
Oh, it's a great movie. Yeah, you can watch
About
it.
the Dragon and Bruce Lee story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can probably get it off of Amazon. Like, it's not a hidden movie.
Okay.
It's a biography movie of his life.
God bless.
At the time of his death, Lee was filming his last movie, Game of Death. Eventually, through editing and stand-ins, the films was completed and released in 1978. In the film, Lee's character is a martial arts movie star who ends up surviving being shot in a film set scene. The fact that his own son would die in that way is a haunting apparel.
It is. Yeah, it is wild.
Okay. That's a game changer right there.
The weirdest part to me is I didn't realize that the Dragon movie was done before Brandon's death.
Yeah.
Because you see it clear as day at the end because they kept showing. Because Carter, I know you haven't seen it. They kept showing his nightmares of the curse haunting him, and then the day, the last scene you see in his dream is him looking at Bruce and then turning straight to Brandon and start walking towards Brandon. So it's pretty creepy.
Yeah, it came out the year before The Crow did.
Wow.
So, what does y'all's gut say right now as far as Curse, Triads, Ip Man? Was it just terrible family coincidences? And comments, let us know as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, just the way they were both so young, round about the same age about the time they died. I mean, Brandon was a little bit younger. And again, like you were saying, this was really when they were starting to get their biggest roles, like the one I mentioned, Enter the Dragon. It was released after his death.
Yep.
And that's the one that a lot of people, if they mention Bruce Lee, that's the first title that usually gets brought up. And same way with The Crow. So it's just, I don't know. It seems like there's something there, and like we mentioned with the foreshadowing.
That's the weirdest part,
for it to seem like it's just you can't just say it's nothing.
Carter, I know you're gonna try to follow up a little bit more on this and watch some of the things. What is your thoughts going into this a little bit blind on it?
I don't want to be that guy who's like, of course the simplest explanation is probably what it is. I don't know, man. I mean, there are a lot of weird coincidences out there. It freaked me out, man. I mean, could it be some kind of curse? Maybe. Depends on what you believe. I know hearing this, like I said, I did go into this blind. I really didn't know anything about all this. I mean, I didn't even know Brandon Lee was Bruce Lee's son going into this. Shows you what I know. But after hearing this and all these, crazy coincidences and stuff, it made like all the hairs on my arms and stuff were standing up. I mean, it's pretty trippy to say the least. I don't know what to think. But I definitely want to look into it more.
I got you. Before we leave, go ahead.
I was just going to say his other child, Shannon Lee, she's the one who founded and is the president of the Bruce Lee Foundation, and basically was trying to, I guess, get more things out there about her father and things like that. So she's kind of taken the helm in a different way, but was still trying to push forward with. There was even like a series, I think it was on Cinemax, that she was behind getting, and that had an all cast of different people, Asian people that were in the cast. It wasn't like one where they tried to get other big time American acters. And,
like Bradley Cooper playing Jet Li or something like that.
Right. So I just thought I would mention her as well, but I know we were talking about mainly those two. But
I found a video I'd like to show you guys.
I was actually going to ask too. When you get, well, I don't know what this video is. Can you play that demon looking at Bruce Lee video when you get a sec as well?
Yeah. So is that like a scary movie? I guess.
No, it's not scary at all.
No, it's like a reoccurring nightmare that he has throughout the movie, I think, and then the culmination of it is when he faces this demon.
And the demon is not really. It's like a samurai warrior.
It looks more like a
mask.
shogun type,
Yeah.
warrior.
Okay.
How did it do to you? Let me think. Don't think. Feel.
Bruce Lee is a man who needs little to no introduction.
Introduction.
He changed martial arts cinema forever. Great man for a quote.
The water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
The 1-inch punch. Killer badass lines.
Or don't hit back.
I even remember hearing in school he could split a tree with a punch. We all knew it was bullshit, but it didn't matter. It added to the myth. The fact that you could even humor such a statement was testament to the man's greatness.
Game of Death, The Lee Family Cage.
In 1978, he even starred in a Hong Kong action movie called Game of Death. Big whoop, you say? Bruce Lee makes a kung fu film. Well, he died 5 years earlier from a brain edema. So there. The film was only partially shot when he died, so the filmmakers did their best to patch together what footage they already had into some semblance of a film. There's Chuck Norris there. These shameless bastards tried it all. Paper cutouts optically placed on the new actor's head, cutaway shots of Lee in different films, breaking continuity. They hired 2 other Chinese actors to fill in for Lee in the hopes that Western audiences would be too racist to notice the difference.
Oh my god.
Another great scene there from definitely Bruce Lee. They even awkwardly shoehorned in footage of Bruce Lee's open casket funeral. Probably blur that bit out. And here's the incredibly respectful face-spitting scene seconds later.
Miss Morris?
Audiences felt the film was in bad taste, trying to exploit the Bruce Lee name for a quick profit. This was common after his death, with Hong Kong producing films with actors pretending to be Bruce Lee, known as the Bruceploitation era. Bruce Lee fights back from the grave, and the clones of Bruce Lee.
The respected and loved Chinese superstar Bruce Lee has just died. Starring Dragon Lee, Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee, the clones of Bruce Lee.
What?
I even have one here. Exit the Dragon, Enter the Tiger, starring Bruce Lee. Ah, see what they did there. All of this, incredibly, is not the weirdest thing about the story. It's this. In Game of Death, Bruce Lee plays Billy Lowe, an actor shooting a film. There's a scene where a stunt goes wrong. An assassin loads up a prop gun with real bullets, shooting the Billy Lowe character. What's so disturbing about that? Well, flash forward to 1993, when Bruce Lee's son, gothic sex god Brandon Lee, was filming The Crow. During a take, when another actor is supposed to fire a gun at Brandon Lee, a bullet fragment jammed in the barrel dislodged and caught Brandon in the gut.
You need a professional.
In other words, Brandon Lee died under exactly the same circumstances as Bruce Lee's character in Game of Death. Technically, Billy Lowe survives and fakes his own death going undercover with a dodgy beard, but, you know, it's still pretty wild. Now, there aren't many films that feature a character getting shot on a film set by a prop gun loaded with real bullets. So the fact that Brandon Lee's father pretty much played out his son's death 20 years before it happened, while working on a film he would eventually die himself, is a coincidence so uncanny it inevitably caught the attention of the conspiracy theorists. They have speculated on every aspect of this bizarre scenario. Was it a Lee family curse? Was it the Illuminati? A ritualistic killing? The Chinese mafia? What do I believe? I think it was him. Bruce Lee.
I think it was him.
Oh gosh.
Alright, so what's that scene called for the movie?
Just type in Bruce Lee Dream, Brandon, Demon. Try that.
Yeah, I'll try that.
There you go.
Bruce defeats the demon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like where he.
Yeah.
You really should watch. It's a really good movie.
See, this
Yeah, it is the guy from the Jungle Book.
Yeah, it's Mowgli.
Well, his name's Jason Scott Lee. No relation.
It's so weird. Me and him are built the same. It's so crazy.
Right.
Remember, this was done before Brandon's death.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
I wonder what the family thought about that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a little bit of,
Mm-hmm.
not agreeing with it because, again, they took some liberties in that movie and didn't really go 100%, like most movies do when you're talking about someone's life, So,
Yeah.
I know they're not the biggest fans of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, no,
shit.
definitely not that.
But no, I mean, what's crazy, like Hoss, you've seen that movie. Brandon's really not in that movie much. So for him to just throw him in that scene was kind of odd.
Mm-hmm.
No, Slim, I do not.
Brand just says now he's on the conspiracy train.
Join us.
Yeah, I think I'm there too, man. That's weird. Awfully strange. So yeah. Wow. That's just a lot to digest.
Yeah.
How did I go 32 years without ever knowing about this? I'm just
Well, I mean, maybe you just didn't know too much about it growing up. I don't know.
yeah.
Or if it's not an interest of yours either. I mean, some people don't like the whole kung fu thing, and
Yeah.
it's not like my favorite type of movies, but I can sit down and watch them. I mean, it's not like it's something that annoys me or anything.
Yeah. Let's see what this says here. Cran just says face.
It was
or
another emoji thing there.
Emojis aren't working for some reason. Well,
It's
they
little
are.
hearts and stuff. So, with it
Yeah,
being
that-
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day, Trenches and Halls, and
Oh yeah.
everybody out there. Make sure you spread the, spread the love.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe some of y'all are getting lucky tonight out there.
Mhm. Kudos to you if you are.
Yeah, straight up. So yeah, Crew Hollywood story. We'll have another one next week. I think I don't know exactly which one we're doing, but there's plenty to choose from. So you'll just have to stay tuned to check it out. We'll be back here next week. Don't forget, Moshpit Crue will be live tomorrow night, possibly doing some type of trivia. We'll see. And then don't forget, Thursday night, usually Rattlehead does Riff and Rattlehead. I don't think he's doing one. So, what Thursday night, me and Trenches are going to do our wrestling show off the top rope.
There you go.
Usually on Saturdays, we just had to move it this week for personal reasons.
Yep. Trenches is got a previous, he's a big Jacksonville Jaguars fan. He's got something to
You bastard.
do.
And then Friday, we finished the band.
Yeah,
That's right.
With Everyday Opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't mention that in the open, but yeah, we've been working on creating our best band of all time.
We've got our drummer, John Bonham, our lead singer, Corey Taylor. We've got our rhythm guitar player, James Hetfield, and we have our lead guitarist, Eddie Van Halen. We need a bass player, people.
Mm-hmm.
Best wrestling talk I've ever heard. It's the only wrestling talk you need in this world. All the rest of them are fake.
Oh yeah,
Just wait till tomorrow night. Or tomorrow night, Thursday night. Sorry. Getting ahead of myself here, okay?
Yeah, you're excited. It's cool.
I just had my world rocked about all this shit, Damn. Like, I feel like an idiot.
It's okay. It's okay.
What are you going to tell me next? Like there's some kind of conspiracy with, I don't know, like the Wizard of Oz or something? Shit.
Dum, dum, dum.
You weren't aware of that?
No. I think that's one we might cover eventually. I hope so. That's one that interests me a lot. If you have any conspiracies you want to see us talk about, within the movie world, or as long as it's some type of either a movie, music or stuff like that.
Entertainment,
yeah.
Not going to really go into like JFK and shit like that, but
Curtis says we should all come up with band names and put them in a bracket and do it.
The name of this band we've been putting together.
Band.
Yeah, that's definitely something we could do.
Okay.
Corey Taylor and the Stooges. That's my vote.
Oh, get the. Yeah, I guess we'll figure it out.
It was a good episode.
It was fun.
Thank you for joining us for Crew Hollywood Stories.
Yep.
See you on the next one.
We will see you on the next one.